All right guys, here it is. It's my 2000 C5 fixed roof coupe. Pretty stoked on this thing. Picked it up about 6 months ago. I got it for about 8,800 bucks. Did come with some issues though, but I mean, all C5s really have a bunch of issues. I'm super stoked to finally put this on the channel. It's been a while. I've kind of been working on it in the background, just getting small, insignificant things fixed, but just making it an overall better car. All right, well, enough of that. Let's talk about what we're gonna be doing in today's episode. So, one of the big problems, well, at least for me, for the C5 is the lug pattern. It's 5x120. Today we're gonna be converting it over to 5x114. Typically people use just a spacer adapter to do that. I'm gonna try to avoid that. I've read on the internet that CTS hubs will convert over. And the reason I want to go that route instead of bolting on a spacer is because Corvettes don't really offer a lot of room to put low offset wheels on, and I'd really prefer to have low offset wheels. And I don't want to have to buy fender flares, or like, I don't know if you guys have ever priced out fender flares for this, or like a wide body kit. It's pretty expensive. It's like over $1,000. So the plan is to convert it over to the CTS. I've only read it on like Facebook groups and stuff that this is possible. I haven't read any forums or seen any pictures, and I've searched YouTube and I couldn't find anything. Everything was for other conversions with the CTS to CTS-V, or just putting lug pattern adapters on. With that said, let's dive into getting the wheels off and getting the hubs bolted up. All right, so I got everything disassembled. I got the hub out. Let me kind of go over what I did. This is what the rear knuckle looks like disassembled. You can get to these 2 bolts with everything assembled, but this bottom one, there's absolutely no way. You have the axle coming in this way, and then you actually have this ball joint stud that actually sticks up. So you have to get this off. You have to get that ball joint off. You have to get the axle out, and then you got to run this sucker out. So let's go check out the 2 side by side, see if there's any differences that we notice. All right, so side by side, I'm not really seeing anything different. The plug 2-prong looks to be the same on both, so I don't know if this is necessary, this little plastic piece, because it wasn't on here. I don't even know what the hell you would use that for. I think it's just to hold the wire maybe, so it doesn't get damaged in shipping. Looks the same, so height wise, it looks almost identical. All right, well, let's install it. All right, so I'm gonna orientate this pretty much the way that I remember it being installed, something like that. I think so far everything seems to fit up just fine. I think the true test is gonna be when we actually put the CTS rotor on there and see what the difference is. I'm gonna get this reassembled, and then we're gonna try to put a disc on there and see what happens. All right. Before we go any further in the video, I wanted to show you guys why we're switching out the rotor, other than putting a nice fresh set of rotors on there. So obviously we are changing the bolt pattern from 5x120 to 5x114.3. And in doing so, our stock C5 rotors are no longer going to fit. So we need to find a substitute. So typically, what I've read people do is they actually re-drill the bolt pattern. You can buy it from FDF. There's a template that you can put on there and re-drill it, and that's perfectly fine. I wanted to find a different solution for this this problem, and that was to actually find an OEM rotor that fits. So coincidentally, a CTS rotor is almost the same size in almost every way. The back spacing, drum surface in here, it's all the same. The only difference is the overall height. This is 5 millimeters shorter, but it's a direct bolt-on solution, and that difference isn't going to really make that big of a difference. You might have a little bit of pad overlap over the top of the rotor, but that's about it, and that's not really that big of a deal. So I just wanted to explain that to you guys before we go any further, so you guys understand where I'm going with with this project, stuff like that. So. All right, guys, I finished bolting up the caliper. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen, all put together. The caliper sits a little bit off of the rotor because, like I said, this rotor is just a little bit smaller, so it's going to reduce the contact patch. But like I said, I'll get the measurements and put it in right here, or what the difference is overall. But it's minuscule. It's like 1/8 of an inch or something like that. So you are going to lose a little contact surface with your pad to rotor, but it shouldn't make that big of a difference, and these pads are cheap enough. It's not going to make much of a difference anyways. Pretty stoked on that. I don't have the front because I just ordered the rear because I didn't know how all of this was going to go, how it was going to work with the factory drum brake, the rotor. I didn't know what was going to happen with the rear, or even if I was going to be able to go through with it. So I'll order up the parts, and then I'm going to spec out the CTS front rotor and see if it's comparable to this. If it is, good. If not, we probably have to re-drill it or do something different in the front. I figured out how to make CTS hubs a bolt-on affair, and let me show you. All right, so this is everything you're gonna need for this hub conversion, right? So we obviously have the CTS hubs over here. This is 5x114.3, and I found a solution for the proper size rotor that we could use. There is a slight difference. So this is a 2005 to 2008 Cadillac STS front rotor. There are some other rotors that are on other vehicles that are the same size. I will leave a conversion list down in the description below, so that way you guys can see the interchange for this particular part. There is one issue with this. It's the back spacing, essentially the height of the rotor. This rotor is a little bit taller than the C5 one. So I came up with a different solution for that. Here it is. These are the Level Up Garage C5 hub spacers. This is a product I developed. Essentially, it will goes on there just like that. Fits up pretty nicely. And so what this essentially is going to do is space the hub out enough to make this rotor a bolt-on solution. So essentially making it to where you don't have to re-drill your rotors anymore, and now you have an OEM bolt-on solution that you can get from O'Reilly's, you can get from the junkyard, you can get anywhere, from anywhere you need it, and not have to worry about. So I'll put a link in the description to where you could purchase these. So these are not the final product. So these are just the prototype. My plan is to put these in a better finish than this. This is just the raw finish. We're probably going to make it in some kind of zinc coating or something like that, make it very much more appealing visually, but they came out pretty good. All right, I'm pretty stoked. Let's get this bolted on the car and get some testing done on it and make sure that this thing fits like it should. So there's 3 bolts you need to take out to get the hub off. In order to get this bottom one out right here, you actually have to separate the ball joint from the knuckle, and then it'll gain you access to actually remove this bolt. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so what you're gonna wanna do is separate the ball joint after you loosened up and removed the nut. Is you're gonna want to make sure that the car is properly supported with the jack stand. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna jack directly up on the hub itself. And what that's gonna do is put enough pressure upwards that the ball joint's just gonna fall out, because the spring is going to provide the downward pressure. In doing so, it's probably gonna come crashing down a little bit. And voila, the knuckle is now separated from the ball joint. All right, you can see right here that the bottom bolt sticks out a lot farther. And the reason for that is there's an actual recess that this head actually drops down into. Allows the threads to stick out easier. So when we bolt on our new spacer, we need to replace these because they don't stick out nearly far enough to have proper thread engagement. So that's why the kit's supplied with 2 Allen head bolts that are hardened steel with the correct length. Slide on your ABS sensor bracket. make sure the bracket's pointed that way. Slide on level up garage bracket. Slide your pigtail in first. Line your hub up, thread in the bolts, and then tighten them up. I definitely use some Loctite or something. All right, so now we're gonna slide on our STS rotor. Slide on our caliper. All right, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so I finished up the other side, got the wheels on, so let's go take it for a drive. Unfortunately, it did snow yesterday, so we got to deal with that. So it's gonna be a little interesting with taking the vet out in the snowy roads and stuff. Hopefully when we get on the main roads, it'll be all right. All right, guys, so did a little test drive, everything went perfect. The tires, they're a little dated, so there's a little bit of weirdness going on with that. But other than that, the car drives like it normally would. So here's what it looks like. We threw on some new wheels. These aren't bad. They're not my preferred choice of wheels, but I did pick these up off of Facebook Marketplace for like 200 bucks. So really it was a steal, I think. They definitely are some boomer wheels, but and they're not really the offset I'd like, but they're all right. They definitely make the car look much better. Especially, I'm not a big fan of this color, and with the black and the chrome, it kind of offsets it a little bit and makes goes with the color a little bit better. I've had my eye on this spot for a while. Wanted to always take a car here and do a little kind of like either a thumbnail photo or something like that. You know, I'm not crazy with the picture editing and stuff like that. You know, I do what I can. But honestly, pretty dope spot. It's got, you know, some Marvel characters, some nice graffiti stuff. Definitely a nice backdrop for this, especially with the snow. I think that's it's even cooler. All right, guys, all in all, pretty happy about how this all turned out. Super stoked on it, glad I could pull it off. So if you guys are interested in the Level Up Garage hub spacers, I'll leave a link in the description. Go check it out. But I think that's gonna do it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.